What's up? It's another episode of Watch You Strappin. These aren't watch reviews, it's just a quick wristwatch check and strap combination just to show the pairing. Just give some people an idea what a particular watch could look like on another strap. You know, how it changes its look and feel. And maybe somebody might want to might have the same watch or something similar and get ideas to try something similar. Anyways, this is the Glycine Airman Vintage, the Chief. It's a very long title. I should just call it the Airman or just the Chief, really. But they're all basically all Airmans anyways. Reference number is GL0475, if I'm remembering it correctly. If not, it'll be definitely be in the description and the title of this video. Anyways, really cool GMT watch. This design hasn't changed for well over 50 years. It's basically the very first commercially available GMT watch with like a rotating bezel. Beat Rolex to it actually, but of course Rolex gets all the glory and thunder for just being Rolex, I guess. But otherwise, yeah, this is really a great value watch. List price on these are close to around $1,000 usually, but also usually, and if you look around, you can often find them for about half that price. It's roughly $500 or $600 if I'm not mistaken, from places such as Ashford's, which I believe I got. No, actually, yeah, I did get this one from there. As well as sometimes Glycine themselves might have sales and offer them a little bit less. And there are two Glycine online shops. There's one that's .ch, which is the Swiss one, I guess, and there is another one I believe that's .eu, and they don't always have the same prices. That's how I got like my Combat Sub 39 blue for pretty inexpensive. It was, normally they run around $900 or so, very similar to Airman's, but yeah, I got it for around $500 or $600, something like that. It's pretty close to ends up being pretty close to Ashford's if you can find it there. But at the time, the stock on all those Combat Sub 39s have been dried up for some time, and they finally started restocking them, and one of the first places that got them back was the Glycine store, and they happened to have it on sale, at least on the .eu site. The CH one, no, it was like regular price. So yeah, just look around. Sometimes you can find them on some gray market sites, like on eBay too, like Glycine Direct, and I would say Watch Guru. I think that's what it is. They've been known to have glycines at basically about half the price of what they list at. Anyways, back to this watch. Yeah, this is the latest version I have of this, which is the white dial, which I really like. I've actually liked that gray anthracite radiant dial that I had with the blue hands. I actually owned that 3 times. Once in the original with the plexi acrylic crystal. Then I sold it, and then when they finally put it back out with a slight upgrade to the water resistance, as well as upgrading the sapphire crystal, the crystal to sapphire. I got that, but they only had the full 4-handed GMT version, and then I only wanted the Purist. But when they finally did the Purist, I sold that one and I got the Purist. If it's going to be Airman, it's got to be Purist for me. I don't need that 4th GMT hand, honestly, and I kind of like the fact that this is the way that it was originally designed to do a complete revolution around the dial in once a day. You read this as a 24-hour dial, and it's not that hard. I mean, if you're so into watches, especially into GMT watches, and often they have a 4th GMT hand that reads in a 24-hour scale, it's the same thing. You just minus the 12-hour hand. and you just read the GMT hand. It's basically what you're doing here. Yeah, and I think that's basically what they did to modify this movement, at least appearance-wise. The main hour hand is the GMT hand, but I believe they must have removed the advanced forwarding that you can do, because it's a collar GMT movement. So if in the first or second position, depending of whether it's a screw down crown or not, where you would normally quick set a date, rotating the crown, and then you rotate the other way, it would jump the GMT hand to set it to wherever you need it to. They took that feature out of this, so you can't jump it anymore. Otherwise, you kind of lose your point of reference after you jumped it. Like, where is a true crossing over of midnight after you start jumping the hour hands around, right? It's going to take you a while to guess and figure it out where it should be. So anyways, you remove that, and then they basically just didn't put on a 12-hour hand onto the watch. So then all you see is this. And I think it's cleaner, and again, it's the way it was originally designed. And yeah, and I think it's kind of refreshing to be able to look at the watch and reference the time visually. Relationship to the hour hand, minute hands. It's different than how you would do it with a 12-hour dial, right? And that's just something different, visually, besides, the design itself, looks wise. So I think that's kind of cool. Anyways, back to the strap, or to the strap. I didn't even really get to it. Yeah, this is one I've owned for a while. It's from CNS watch bands, formerly known as cheapest NATO straps, but I think they got kind of called out or busted by whoever owns the right to the the NATO name. They like to bust people's balls whenever it's being used, that name. But god damn it, it is a NATO strap, right? Well, I would say it's a NATO-style strap, and I think that basically clears it to be okay. But so they had to just simply change it to CNS watch bands, and that's have used the name NATO in it. But that's basically where it's from. I had this way back since my very first Chief Airman that had the gray dial and the blue handset. So it's been several years. That was back in, I think that was probably back when Windup was its second year in San Francisco before COVID. So that would have been 2019, if I recall correctly. Yeah, so almost, almost. I can't believe it's almost 5 years already. Yeah, but and this is, I think, considered their premium NATO strap. It's not as flimsy and light or loose as like a really cheap standard one, which on their website would be roughly around $5 or less. This is like about a few bucks more than that. You can feel the quality. It's different. It's a little bit more firm. It doesn't fray as easily. Yeah, it's a higher quality of a standard NATO strap, that's for sure. What else is gonna say? Yeah, and I've always found this looks good on that gray dial, but it also, being a very military color, and to my eyes, it reminds me of the kind of green-gray color that you might find on a Nomex flight suit, that the military pilots might wear, and that's why I kind of like that. And it works very well here, as you can see. And actually, I've been kind of on a fix on getting some of my NATO straps switched out to the rib style ones, where the ribbing kind of goes down the length of the strap. And I really like that look. It just gives a little bit more visual interest in this very standard weave and pattern here, or texture. But I have it this color in that other form, the rib NATO, and I also had another NATO style strap, rather, and I also had it in a kind of like lead gray, which is kind of like a blue grayish color. And normally those colors would work, but I was getting thrown off by the rib texturing. For some reason, that striping going down this way for this particular watch style didn't chime or click with me, and so I tried it back on a standard style like this, and it just looks a lot better to me. I think, I don't know what it is, it's just something about it just works better. I guess I can show it someday if I get around to it, but otherwise, yeah, this is what I got it on. And yeah, I think this works best for my wrist, at least on NATO straps. I just like the look of it, for one. Secondly, because of the size of and dimensions of the Airman, this is a 40 millimeter version of the Airman. They do tend to have, the Airman style do tend to have, you can see, fairly wide stance lugs. This is rocking 22 millimeter strap, lug width here in the strap, which is doable, but coupled with the style, the shape of the case, and depending on the size of your wrist, it for some reason it doesn't seem to sit as nicely on the wrist with like a two-piece strap. It feels a bit wider because of that, and I think it's because just the way it sits, you can kind of imagine. It's not too bad on my wrist right now, but it's because it's on a NATO strap, and I think because of the double pass, which usually I don't like, but because the Airmans are so thin, it doesn't matter so much. I mean, it really doesn't add that much because this watch is damn thin, which is what one of the best things about the Airman series, and as well as actually the Combat Sub series as well. They're actually pretty thin, but I think the specific design of this case and the lugs lends itself better to a NATO style like this, like a traditional one with a dual, double layer or dual pass, whatever you want to call it. It just kind of fills out this lug area a bit more with some extra material above and below it. So this what would normally be some bit of a, I think, more obvious gap, or like the lugs maybe not sitting as close to the wrist as possible, it's all visually taken up by the NATO style strap here, and it just kind of flows and just fills it out and just looks better to me. I'm not even sure a single pass would be still okay, but I think something about a double pass on this particular style would work better. Now, what they need to do, and I hope they do bring it back, is the Airman 18, which I once owned, and I thought I'd be able to get it back, but it's hard to get back a good example without it being looking kind of scuffed up, and otherwise I just can't find the exact one that I used to have. Not in any good condition, and the price is probably not as what I would want to pay for a used one myself. So we'll see. I mean, the Glycine has just recently brought back out the Kraken, Sea Kraken, and I guess it's an old reference that they used to have. It's basically like a skin diver, but it's like a dive watch, but and looks like an Airman case. Seriously, if you look closely at the way the case and the lugs are done, and the way the box sapphire crystal pops up from here, as well as the dive bezel. It doesn't have dual crowns though. It must have a clicking unidirectional bezel. But if you look at how the bezel is done, it's like the same kind of thin profile like this. It's basically almost everything on the outside is like a Airman style, minus the double crown. Of course, it won't have a GMT, or at least not yet. It doesn't have GMT function or GMT bezel. It just has a timing bezel, and the dial is more of a traditional kind of classic dive style, with the triangles, dots, and the batons, and it has like an arrow hand for, I think, the minutes instead of the hours. I forget exactly, but it's okay looking, but I'm kind of getting sick of vintage divers. But that is kind of cool. I mean, that the fact that it's 39 minutes, and it's kind of an amalgamation of an Airman and I guess a Combat Sub. It's got Combat Sub specs, and kind of like the dial, sort of, but not exactly. But it's actually definitely different handset, but in an Airman case, and 200 meters of water resistance, and it's pretty cool if you don't have that kind of style watch yet. It's not a bad one, I would say, but for me, I've had plenty, and I'm kind of sick of them. So I mean, I settled on certain ones myself already, so that doesn't add anything new to the table for me personally. I would just rather they reissue and get into the mainline production, the Airman 18 again, a nice 39 millimeter version of the Airman. It's got sapphire crystal already. It always has. What's great is that it actually has screw down crowns, as well as 200 meters of water resistance, and at 39 millimeters with 20 millimeter lugs, and the lugs don't quite kind of, they look not as long. They just, overall the case dimensions is really good on that one, and the specs are good, and they would do well to bring that back, since if they're going to bring back a 39mm watch, and there's some general trend of some at least adding back in smaller size watches into the catalog, if not going that direction altogether, that would be a great one to have. It's get back. But in the meantime, this is what I'm rocking. So again, I blabbled long enough. Gotta get going, but I just wanted to, I always speak my mind and just get things off the top of my head on a watch that I'm wearing, just to add to the pile of knowledge and experience around a particular watch, and perhaps a strap as well. So yeah, these are cheaper NATO straps. They do some okay straps. Not the best, but then some of them are definitely more than passable, and for the price that you can get them at, it's not bad, especially if you start to get 5 or more, then you can get them even cheaper at the overall will be a 20% discount on the overall order for everything, so even better, right? So when you can look through it and you find a couple of things you would like to try, definitely I would go there and go for that. Shipping isn't too long. I think you can get most things within 2 weeks, which isn't too bad. I think they're coming out of, I want to say they're like Amsterdam or Sweden or somewhere around there, if I remember correctly. I'm not sponsored by Glycine or CNS watch bands, but I just happen to like both, and I've obviously shopped and have bought both, and just sharing what I think about them. Anyways, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your watches.